Got plenty of games left in this series. Speaking of that, we're ready to check out where game number 2 will take place. Cursed Hollow, Naventic has chosen first pick, Tempo taking us to an old Tempo favorite of Cursed.
Yeah, Cursed Hollow has become more popular in North America, looking at Phase 2. It's kind of taken not so much Dragonshire's place, but pretty close to it. Not surprised that Tempo's going to take us there, and Tempo seems to be enjoying double boss maps more than they ever have in their entire lives. Whether, I don't really have a reason, justification for that, but between Warhead and Curse, they have just completely become one of the top priorities for Tempo and only Tempo. Curse is dabbled across the board, Warhead's specifically though.
Now both of the teams like playing Task Tracer on Cursed Hollow, although I think it's very likely that we see Tempo continue this trend of Tassadar banning, because it does seem like they are more flexible in the types of strategies that they can run. So if there's ever a crossover between them and Naventic, they'd just be willing to ban that out and then be able to take something else.
Kind of counter argument.
Okay.
One thing with Tempo Storm specifically, why? Okay, first of all, they've been a team that has always been vocal about not enjoying anything involving shielding whatsoever. Second of all, because of their role swaps, they love Double Warrior more than they ever have, because they feel like they need to be able to ensure that Fury and Cattle are both comfortable. You pick Tassadar and all of that dies. Every time. Because you cannot Double Warrior with the Tassadar and actually say, I have enough damage to win this video game. Most compositions struggle with that. It's a draft setback that you volunteer into. So
yeah, that's why I'm saying that they would ban it. I see Tempo Storm banning Task.
Yeah, just every single game. Because, and it's not even so much that they can't play it. It's just because the role swaps to feel comfortable, Tassadar doesn't work.
Well, they've role swapped, but Tempo, even last game, has shown that they're willing to play solo warrior compositions.
Yeah.
If they feel like it's objectively the strongest thing for them to pick, they will put Fury on the main warrior. But yes, it is more so that they're, although we've kind of had this influx of Arthas Tassadars.
Yes, yeah, it's just the whole thing is a little bit kind of all over for Tempo. And again, it all is because of Psalm and then what his hero pool has been, and then this weird hybrid now that we see between Cattle and Fury. But it just, I don't know, it's an interesting dynamic that they have going on there. Anyways, this is taking a bit for that secondary ban, if it's just going to be the flat Tassadar or not.
If not Tassadar, then are they considering a global here? They've banned Abathur before. Team Naventic does not seem to be overly Abathur focused. They're much more likely to get Dahaka.
I feel like a noob is the only thing other than that, just because the global, I don't see, okay, they go with the Stitches instead. The reason I don't see it being a global is Tempo Storm, depending on their confidence level, it has to be sitting at a point where it kind of goes like, they just showed a double global, and how many times did I actually fear the global? And how many times did I feel like it actually gave them a pretty significant advantage or upper hand on anything? And I would just be like, not that much. Like, if they want to first pick globals and all in that strategy, I'm just going to be like, all right, well, I'm ready to win this game too.
Tempo Storm is surely expecting Naventic to first pick Tassadar. They had high focus on both Tassadar and Dahaka. So I guess in that regard, it could be the Dahaka, but I still think that it's hard to tell, actually, for Naventic, which they feel is more important here.
The misplay in this draft would be the Dahaka. And so here's my theory craft on why that would be, okay? Is because, so if you pick the Dahaka, or okay, you're worried about Tassadar. Tassadar is the question is, are you picking the Tass, and if not, what are you going to commit to? Dahaka has been the highest contested hero for Naventic immediately. Tempo Storm would then have to pick Tassadar and then pick the Dahaka to remove both from you, and that would have to be the rotation. Tempo probably would either commit to the Tracer immediately or at least draw resources later in the draft. I doubt they're going to rotate that Dahaka on top of it. And if so, you should be able to capitalize and benefit, your later draft. So pick something other than Dahaka, what normally would be your 2-3, get that before Tempo Storm could possibly take it away, and then pick the Dahaka up in the next rotation. It just wasted essentially a first pick. And Tempo doesn't do either, so I'm just flat wrong. Tassadar is not that big of a problem.
When they picked him, it was after the secondary bans, before. But yeah, it does seem strange, especially since they know that Naventic likes having Tassadar so much. They're still more concerned with having a new Barak. Uther was definitely going to be one of their 2 picks there. It's been a high priority on Cursed Hollow in this rotation for them in the last 2 times they've played Cursed Hollow. But that is strange that both Dahaka and Tass were left up. Even Abathur.
Yeah.
They've banned Abathur before on a lot of the games,
Yeah, no,
and that hasn't gotten picked. Just the Anub Uther.
It's very weird that Tempo didn't commit to... They committed to a team fight, very generic draft in their 1-2 on a map like Curse Hollow. That is very not common for them, and, you know, the fact that the Tassadar value dropping that significantly for a map like Curse Hollow. In the past, when Tassadar was in his prime, he was highest value on any map where you get the wave clear from him, and then only with pairings of high all-ins like that. But with Tempo, or excuse me, with Tass Tracer rising so much with other North American teams, I thought for sure we would still see it even here. That is one of those ones where just like the difference between Team A and Team B in North America, it's so crazy to see the difference in value. But Murden and Li Ming, even that would be something I wouldn't come out expecting out of Naventic, especially that high of a Murden.
Yeah, the Murden is really the one that's interesting to me. Li Ming, they've been playing a lot of, so kind of makes sense. But the Murden.
So then...
It is B-Kid, but he's only played one Murden so far in all of Phase 2.
And B-Kid also, it felt like for a while, was like, Naventic was essentially funneling him to specifically only a few heroes. And now it's expanding. It's venturing outward. But it's, again, it's weird when you see the hero that has been almost not contested at all be up before the secondary ban phase for Naventic here. But we'll figure out if they have a master plan.
Maybe a support ban here or another range damage dealer. Yeah, they're going to ban Rhaegar away. Team Naventic, a secondary warrior. This seems like a game where Tempo's going to get Arthas. But also, Illidan might be scary for Team Naventic now because Tempo have already gotten a new Barak and Uther.
I mean, at this point, I'm terrified of like 20 different things. Like,
so pick the scariest, I guess.
It's Tass. He's the biggest problem to all of those things you listed, right?
Yeah.
It's like he's the core, which is why I've been surprised he's made it this far through. But the Tass Tracer, what I see right now, if Naventic lets this go through and Tempo doesn't pick it, is just for some reason neither of these teams actually think it's that worth on a map like Curse. Like I'm really struggling to understand how we can see such prevalence and then just full drop off in a draft like this.
Tassadar was first pick from No Tomorrow just yesterday on Curse. They are worried about the Illidan.
It's just, it's baffling me, you know? These are the things, like, up at night, you know? We talk about it. That's one. It would be like, why, how can Tassadar possibly have that happen?
Is this another possible Vala Ariel?
I mean, there's a lot of routes. Tempo can go into the double support Dream. They cannot, I would say on a map like Curse, you can make the argument it's going to be effective because the early laning and getting front walls is actually a viable strategy on a map like this, though it's not a small one where you expect to get value out of the macro. So I think it's reasonable if they move in that direction. But again, it by no means is where they have to. It's
it does
really
feel like this draft is
whatever you want, Tempo, take
anything you want, Tempo. You can have your cake and eat it too.
Because they picked generically and objectively considered very powerful heroes that work in almost all circumstances, and Naventic didn't ban enough isolated things to really stop them.
Greymane Abathur.
And then its last pick, Tyrael. Pick your point. Man, that's crazy. We didn't even talk about the Abathur Greymane route they can move. Like, it just, there were so many, I guess we hinted at the Abathur, but it's just like, again, it felt like there was 20 different things that, and again, Naventic didn't stab too much at any of them. I thought, like the Tassadar and the Abathur would have been one of the two. Just because, again, you don't ban the hero that is directly the enabled problem. You ban the ones that enable them. Like, again, Abby. How do they make up for it? It's not over. You can assume it's a Tyrael in the later slot.
False start if they want the disengage of a fight. Although then you've got the Sanctification Gust debacle that happened.
At least you can force poor Sanctifications on boss and at least create some havoc over one of two win conditions.
Yeah, they'd also be able to get the boss control that comes from Falstad, and then the support. So whatever Tomster's going to play again, no Rhaegar for him. Are we right back into a Kharazim?
I think so. Alarak Kharazim.
Ooh.
An Alarak? How do you Sanctification when you're silenced?
You don't.
You just don't. I'm not sure if that's
You're
how
grumpy.
that works. I'm trying to figure out. All right, so is that enough of a deterrent to not move into the Tyrael? It's going to be another. front line of some kind, right? Or it's the Arthas. Arthas into Alarak. I think I like the Tyrael more, but I can see the argument of moving into the Arthas.
Fury has played Chin, Anub, Dahaka, Arthas. This is possibly Fury's Anub.
That's what I'm saying. It's Cattle's Tyrael.
Right.
Yeah. Is what I assume it. They can flex the Anub in both of them,
yeah,
right?
That's
so
true.
it goes to which direction do they want to move? Which hero pool do they want to abuse? I got 8 seconds to figure this out.
It's Arthas or
It's going to be
Tyrael?
some crazy.
It's Arthas or
It's going to be some
Is it
wild.
Chin? It might be Chin. It's
Thrall.
Thrall! Wait, what?
Yep. Solo Warrior is becoming a thing in North America.
So is Thrall. It's my Sundering impression.
Yeah, nobody saw it though, so
I know.
get wrecked. So,
I checked the camera to make sure it wasn't very good. Thrall returns!
Thrall returns. That's not the weird thing for me. Like, Thrall, it was one of the heroes that was actually like a part of the original composition with Abathur clones that like came out. Was Sundered was the start and Greymane was the finish, and the clone was just like, hey, I can make sure everybody else dies on top of it. It's one of the best instant initiations. I am totally for Thrall coming back into the meta. I just still am torn on when it's very good and where it's very bad because of not only a colossal rework, but then like in this type of comp where you have a very safe pick you could take that is very forgiving. You know, Tempo went with a more of like, we're going to go on the risque side, and I don't always think that's a bad thing.
And what about Team Naventic? The Alarak?
I mean, they started with the Murden of a blatant, we're trying to mix things up. The Alarak is a nice like follow-up, but I mean, you know how I feel about Alarak in general is like, it's a better Kerrigan is really all it is. It's one way to approach almost every single team fight, a little bit more survivability, more usefulness overall, but it comes down to you got to hit a combo, otherwise who cares?
Yeah, Naventic has an explosive
Yeah.
composition between the Leeming and the Alarak, and Tempo Storm have things to stop that, like Sundering and Divine Shield. Let's see how it works out for Naventic if they can tie up the series on Cursed Hollow in game number 2.
I do want to say that there is a pretty cool aspect between like the fact that Tempo moved into that Thrall, like you were talking into the last game. So if Tempo Storm, why argue going another Warrior there is a safer direction to move your draft, is just because Alarak is combo-centric and momentum-based, so is Li Ming, right? We talk about how they want the fights. They want to start them and finish them within about a second and a half. Having another Warrior in a melee to be up there in the front lines where that combo survives, stop the fight from ending in 1.5 seconds, is safer. But the Thrall pick drops that variable, but it does increase who initiates first problem, like we saw in the last one. Thrall and all of the composition of Naventic, mainly Alarak and Murden's okay, but mainly the Alarak is just useless if you open on him. He just goes, well, I'm dead. Here's a counter-strike, and maybe I can combo immediately afterwards. But Thrall has the same problem with Sundering. He is better than Alarak at getting a counter initiation, but if we see the Alarak being the one who opens on top of the Thrall, the fight gets very convincing now to Naventic because that lack of a beefcake like the Warrior.
Yeah, that's why Alarak is so nice to have versus those melee assassins, because if the combos are good, then all of a sudden a silence is there for enough time to make Thrall very sad, because he's not throwing out his abilities to be able to get procs of Frostwolf Resilience and get his self-sustain. He's not being able to hit Wind Fury for his ability to run away, his movement speed. So he is more reliant on Uther. And you know who else is reliant on Uther in this composition is Greymane.
Yeah.
So now June is going to have to be cautious about who he is protecting with that. Zuna has to be cautious and is. He gets away from becoming fresh meat, the first blood. But
It is going to be that.
And there it is. There is it. Exactly.
Yeah, the opening and initiation there. Yeah, it just comes down to like I don't hate the Thrall rotation. It just is, again, it's one of those just a huge risk, and we'll see if they have the tools to make it work. It's just when I see a draft play out, I feel like my thought process a lot of the time goes even beyond like learning and testing. Like we don't know if Tempo goes like we feel like we have this. Let's venture a little bit more. We need to work on our Thrall play or not. But it just comes down to always the simplicity of how you execute. I will always take the easiest route in every single draft I can. Tempo.
Talking about the Alarak, again, we see the Ruthless momentum pick up at level 1. his ability to have his abilities up more often as long as he is in higher health, but still getting Chaos Reigns. It does seem like Chaos Reigns is unavoidable. You have to get this ability because it's so strong.
One talent adjustment I would have adored to see in this game is Eyes in the Dark build, especially with Adrenal Overload into an Alarak. If you're already in Worgen form, you get the disengage with Eyes in the Dark. You aren't going to die immediately after. Somebody can buy time and heal you up. Eyes in the Dark only gives you stealth, but it is such an underestimated value in terms of survivability and surprisingly enough, offense. Post 13, if you go for the disengage range and you max stealth disengage on the back line, and then suddenly you're there with things like a curse bullet or a go for the throw, he's a monster. And just anytime you see the Adrenal Overload and you can argue the stealth will give you a huge defensive addition, I will love the talent. You know, on a map where Flask build isn't going to complement, it's not Inferno Shrines. It's not the end of the world, but I like that build, and whenever we can get it.
Maybe this is kind of respect for the fact that Uther is the soul healer, other than a hat build Abathur, is the fact that Thrall is going to be up in the front, probably going to get hit by a silence, so Uther is almost certainly going to have to Divine Shield Thrall a lot more often, and in that case, Cattle's just sort of protecting himself by making sure that he is more focused on being the ranged hero with those cocktails, and probably Curse Bullet then at level 10. We'll have to see.
Yeah, and now Naventic was able to pick up the first tribute. Tempo did a reasonable job stalling things out here. Is Thrall not too happy to have the Giants pressuring in, but this is always what we know. When you see Abathur compositions, you want to be winning as fast as possible. You should be assuming the opponent has a lead, almost a full level, pre-10. So the fact that we find ourselves 50-50 is a bit intimidating for Naventic.
Yesterday we discussed the Thrall build, Echo of the Elements, but then more importantly the Frostwolf pack at level 4, trying to get the 7 stacks of hitting heroes with your Feral Spirit without missing heroes or dying. And then you're able to get the 50% cooldown reduction and mana cost reduction. Pairs really well with Alpha Wolf at level 16 so that you can get some more percent-based damage versus Double Warrior. It's extra nice. It's just whether or not he's able to get that. Equinox, one game was able to get it, another game it was very late into it if he did finish it. So it is volatile as an ability, a questing talent to try to get. But there are a lot of fights that happen around tributes specifically, in a lot of corridors where it's maybe less likely that you'll actually miss it. Often you can throw it out and get a double like this, and that's really nice when you can do that.
Yeah, and now Thrall, though, he's on the wrong side of the blue lines there. Nice dwarf toss in.
Stack's gone.
Another kill here for Naventic. They aren't done. The Stormbolt landing on top of June. Thompson trying to chase in there with the Iron Fist, but June manages to survive this time. Tribute picked up for Zuna. Burrows away. He's going to get Abathur, too. Oh, my gosh. Can we... Oh, that was so
too close for comfort.
The minute he started that burrow, I was like, Coffin, you better not be symbioted right now or you're going to be a dead worm. Man. All right. So, just a tribute forfeited. But Naventic is getting picks.
They're also getting ahead in experience because of that, and they are up 2 tributes over Tempo Storm. So they're on Curse Point, and Tempo Storm has that Abathur composition. The nice thing is that Abathur did, in fact, pick Mule. Our friend, once again, is the robot's back combo. Nice
2-man combo from iDream there. June's under a lot of pressure, getting the Abathur hat movement speed. He finds himself out of there thanks to that. Now Cattle and friends looking to turn it in. 3-man burrow charge from Fury. They're not done. They get a kill on to the Alarak. Big impact. Gets auto down. B-Kid with a nice Stormbolt. It's only got to be 2 for 1 for now. June on the way out. Zuna gets the passive. He didn't get the passive, so I don't think he has the ability to get the drag. But Fury kind of gave it to him.
Fury and June were trying to save each other, but June seemed to be out. Was getting help with the symbiote of Abathur, but in the end, they're trading out quite evenly in this fight around mid.
The fight of the century going down. We have had a tribute in the downtime spawn up here on top, and it looks like B-Kid will have this for free. So we find ourselves with the first curse and all 3 first tributes over on the side of Naventic. What can they make happen, though? They got the 10 spike even. Things are working out. When it comes to at least global advantage, it's dead even. But Dahaka just burrowed early on, so you can expect him never to be with the team the rest of the curse whenever they show that like that. So now I would like to see Tempo Storm take advantage of that. That was one of those small things that you can really try and punish. We'll see if they try to do so.
Yeah, Tempo wants to defend as many structures as they can so they can heal them back up with Mule. It's very unlikely that they don't lose any of their forts. They're trying to keep them all alive. Nubarak and Greymane starting to make the rotation up. B-Kid is here, but is going to just silently slip away. Maybe not so silently. He is found.
Can you get the Dwarf Toss?
Avatar.
He's got Avatar. Thrall with the Earthquake down. So they're going with more of the old school slow strategy rather than the Sundering initiation. Palm does get procced. Nice one coming out from Tomster. Blast getting a lot of poke, and iDream using the telekinesis. The clone chasing him down. B-Kid getting the pressure too. Gilly everywhere. Naventic is just struggling in these fights.
Now they lose their Murden. The Counter-Strike looked to be really good, as is that drag. Team Naventic might have lost the first kill, but they're still making things happen. Orb comes through, Som in danger.
Yeah, drag there from Zuna. Combo not landing from iDream. That is a must-have. Again, it's a Olarak essentially has nothing if he does not have a combo. And it's such a risky pickup for Naventic, and so far Tempo is held on. Tempo lost 2 forts after that curse, but the experience again is even. And now Abathur is becoming a problem. We are past the 10 mark. We're rounding towards those 13 with death timers are going to increase, and suddenly I expect Tempo Storm to really launch themselves ahead.
2 bosses available. Both teams getting some mercenary camps before that fact. Team Naventic has done a good job of keeping an eye on the boss of Tempo Storm. B-Kid has been, it's kind of almost been his home for a lot of this game, just chilling around that boss, running up, checking on it.
This is your home. This is where you belong.
Frostbolt pack is finished. Oh, such a good feeling for Som having that done.
You know what's not a good feeling is Naventic creeping up while you know you're starting a risky boss. Fury throws down the Impale.
Thrall's not here yet. He was hanging out in mid.
Yeah, this is so greedy from Tempo Storm's side unless they all in the fight. Also, the fact that we see Earthquake over the Sundering, that I was going to talk about, you know, the getting that initiation we were referring to before. Earthquake is way safer in the world of can we get this fight right now when you have the clone? But I feel like Sundering is such a huge tool here that right now it seems 50-50 on who's taking it and who's not. But
there are so many melee, though, on Naventic's side that if they catch a lot of the melee in there, Curse Bullet, goodbye. Oh, the Palm's there.
The Palm, but the
Earthquake.
Avatar gave him enough HP to survive.
Yeah.
And now the Cocoon. Gilly, this is terrible for Naventic.
So Haka's going to show up to see if they can turn things around. Immediately pops the adaptation. Hammer of Justice. It doesn't go through. The heal does not connect, and Karazim is down as well. Tempo Storm continuing on in the fight.
Fury has enough mana for 1 knock up there, but the silence disabled that. Flask over the wall, just poking at big impact as the clone. Accepting the fate, pushing outward, and now they back out to the original objective here, the boss.
So yeah, obviously there are so many melee that Earthquake is going to hit a lot of people. It'll slow things down, it'll allow Tempo Storm to re-engage, but importantly as well, give Thrall more of his Frostwolf resilience stacks to make him more bruisery, more tanky up in the front lines.
Yeah, it's just specifically the one reason, I definitely agree with all the melee, the one character that I like Thrall's Sundering specifically into is actually Karazim. It's awkward if you've ever tried to be a Karazim player into that. When Sundering's your only initiation, it's not bad because you can react after. But when you real kill target midway through a fight, a Sundering just goes down the middle of the team, that person's dead. You can't dodge it, or you're not healing. You pick one or the other. And so that was a little bit why I expected that more than the Earthquake, but it's just a safer route here for Psalm and the rest of Tempo, which is, you know, kind of funny between the argument of the Warrior's safeness and then going into the Thrall and then picking the safer direction.
Oh, both of those interrupts did not go to plan for Tempo Storm, so Naventic is going to get their 4th tribute in a row on Cursed Hollow.
For the first time.
Tributes.
I was going to say, for the first time in this game, Tempo is actually ahead in experience thanks to the Abathur, and now I expect them never to let it go.
Root, Curse Bullet, Earthquake, Counter-Strike. But that's it for the protection of iDream as he goes down, the first kill in this fight.
And then look, the Cocoon's about to be revealed. Tomster, no, he has the Palm, but even if he uses it, it's probably not going to matter. He was dead no matter what. Can Big Impact make it out here? Nice! Pharaoh Spirit there, thrown out by Thrall. Psalm hanging the wrist, showing, flexing that talent. You know, the level 4. We're talking about the stacks, and now he's using them. This is the boss and a tribute now too, Gilly, because the immediate transition of Fury over to that boss. Tempo is got to be feeling good here.
Yeah, you can tell that they feel the momentum swing of this game. They've gotten into the late game, later stages of the game. They have their Abathur. They're winning team fights, they're getting kills, and it's back to business for Tempo Storm. Getting a boss there, they can transition up. They're going to have Abathur even come in, just pick up this this tribute.
Is that Locust, if he would go out of his way to check that shrub, he would be the real MVP. I think that's a Blizzard please right there, you know? I think I need my actual Locust to face check shrubs for me.
They're scouts, just like in StarCraft.
Exactly. I have no idea what I'm talking about when I agreed. I had blind faith, though, that that was an accurate statement.
It was.
Thank you. Tempo's ready. They've got 16s and a boss. It's only a 12-minute boss. Scaling on him is not too impressive, as you can see. Even those turrets are doing a little bit of damage. But the keep is still a realistic option, again, thanks to that 16 power spike.
And Heroics are almost here. That was the Cursed Bullet. Earthquake's available. Palm connects, keeping B-Kid alive. And he has to go, and Avatar just barely does, but it's way too late. He just goes down. Now iDream is the next to fall. Cocoon is there holding on to the next person to jump on. Man, Tempo Storm is just wrecking people.
Yeah, you were talking about the lethality that this group is learning, and that we even heard it from their interview, that they are concentrating on being on the same page with their initiations even more. That was exactly that. The minute the Impale hit, everyone was throwing their combos, Cursed Bullet, Worgen Form, all the damages they have, and immediately killing a Muradin through Avatar, through Palm. I mean, they cycled 3 health pools on that little dwarf, and he's still able to die in the exact same spot they started it. That was exactly what they wanted to see, and those are the things we're talking about when we see these changes out of Tempo.
Yeah, whatever it is, the change in shot calling, because it's the same person, it's still cattle shot calling, but whatever it has been, whether it's just all committing to this idea of we're going to be more aggressive, we're going to stick with the calls that we make, and that was a prime example of them doing just that.
Yeah, it's really nice, and you know, there is eventually this kind of world where I wonder if Tempo continues down this route to getting better and better and better. When is the team that actually punishes them for their commitment? Because the first thing you do when learning this type of strategy is you overcommit resources to getting those kills, because you need to teach everyone that this kill is very possible. And so you blind faith everyone, no matter what. You start out, and then eventually it gets to the point where you have to gauge what is now the effective, what is the maximum we put out to get this kill and not waste anything. And it's when teams that are learning that, you actually, the supports on the other side can bait it, drop a perfect Divine Shield. Granted, the Palm wasn't enough in those circumstances, but certain supports can bait it and maybe turn it against Tempo. I don't think we'll see it in this series, but down the path of HGC North America, we may see groups focus on that. Well,
wouldn't you agree that we kind of have already, too? The fact that they played Gale Force and No Tomorrow before, we can guess that they've been experiencing some of that probably in scrims, too. But yeah, we'll see if somebody else maybe along the line can punish, or even if Naventic can figure out how to punish in this series. We're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, we'll have game number 3. See you soon.